Yo, what's up? It's Jason. I'm back with another video, and I'm entering a contest, even after winning a mega contest like I just did. And if you haven't seen that video yet, do go check it out. The last video I posted. Got some really killer metal stuff in there, and from Johnny Mac. This is a contest, though, for a new channel to me, James, over at Stormwind79. I've just subbed up his channel. He is celebrating 400 subs, and I discovered this channel through Dennis over at Analog Archives. Also an excellent channel, especially if you're into metal, all kinds of underground metal stuff. So yeah, James has got a contest. It has 11 questions to answer and show some stuff, and so this is going to be my entry into this contest. He's got the winning is 5 CDs. I'm pushing my luck here to see if I can win 2 contests back to back. But yeah, we'll kick off with number 1. I'll post a link down below to the contest and hopefully the questions too. A band which everyone likes but you can't get into. I have a lot. There's a lot of those bands, right? Strictly speaking, within the VC, I'm definitely going to say, Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, right off the top of my head. Wilco, another one. Never could get into Wilco. Just don't even. Now, if we're talking metal, there's quite a few metal bands that I do try to get into. I've tried over the years and hasn't really clicked for me, and I ended up actually selling the stuff, so I got nothing to show. But Annihilator is one, Canadian band. Good guitars, but just, I don't know, the albums and the songs never click with me. Incantation, another one. I do like a bunch of death metal, but for some reason that particular band always felt a little boring. Same thing with Sleep. Puts you to sleep. But yeah, I get the slow stoner thing. I guess I like sludge and doom a bit more than stoner, if that makes any sense. So yeah, those are a few bands that people seem to like and I don't really dig. Band that you discover totally randomly or by accident. That happens almost daily, it seems. Especially if I'm shopping in record shops and or online or watching YouTube or whatever. But a couple bands I'll show for that. One was this pickup in the last year or so, Crude SS, Who'll Survive. I think this was totally random, fine. It's just from the album cover alone. I was like, I gotta jump on this. It looks like killer, old school, crusty, hardcore. It's actually hardcore D-beat from Sweden. So this band was formed in '82, and this is a reissue of a bunch of demos, etc. Put out on Radiation Records in 2015. Nice reissue. Radiation just does killer reissues of obscure punk and hardcore, etc. So it's crusty and D-beat, and just how I like it. That one was totally random, just by looking at the cover. Another random pick as well is this massive record by the band Thou. Talking about slow, sludgy stuff. These guys are very slow doom metal out of the States, New Orleans. Picked this up when I was in New Orleans. I went to a record shop that a buddy recommended, Sisters in Christ, and one of the shop owners is also a member of this band. I think the singer of the band. So yeah, I picked this up at the shop. It's super heavy, sonically as well. Another really random. I didn't even know about that band or that shop until I went to the shop and then got that record. Band that you used to dislike, band or album that you used to dislike but now like. Well, I would mention Priest Turbo right off the bat. Actually has grown on me. A lot of records have grown on me. A lot of 80s glam metal stuff. But one I think that's like probably the biggest, that an artist I've never ever really liked. I don't know, something about her vocal just kind of was cringy for me and never really clicked until this year of all years. I don't know why now. Specifically one song actually kind of did it for me, and that's a track called Army of Me by this artist. Yeah, Iceland's own Bjork. Never liked Bjork. Kind of on par with like really strong dislike of Bjork, but this is actually a remix EP from '95. But the album Post is the one that has Army of Me. And I really like that track. I don't know. It's been on repeat this summer. Digging a little bit into the details, I mean, it has got production from Tricky and Graham Massey from 808 State, so that kind of makes some sense right there. A band which you didn't check out for a really long time but end up really liking. A few bands I could show for that. One would be these guys, the Buzzcocks. I always heard of them when I was a kid, getting into punk, but kind of passed over them. Kind of thought of it as a little bit more new wave or post-punk, I guess, in some senses. Ended up picking this record up in LA at Amoeba. I still got my Amoeba sticker there. Back before the pandemic, and just totally love this record. Fiction romance, fast cars, no reply. I don't mind. Yeah, a bunch of killer tracks on this record. I think it's probably their best or my favorite Buzzcocks record, but I did end up picking up like 2 or 3 more after I got this reissue. That would be one band. Another band I've always kind of had this record in my collection for a long time. I think I found this free in a bin from like radio station bin or something in the city. Never really listened to it much until I got this compilation, Snap by The Jam. Picked this up a little while back and just totally dug the song Strange Town, David Watts, In the City, Modern World, whole bunch of shit on here. 4 sides. So yeah, The Jam, another band, a British band that I kind of was aware of and never really got into. And then last but not least, I'll show another band that I've never really been a huge fan of. I'm like okay with. This group, Sonic Youth. I always had this single, The Master Dick, Beat on the Brat, flip side, kind of their take on Chaconi Youth on Madonna. I dug some elements of Goo and Evil a bit, but I never really got into Sonic Youth until I got these 2 records. Their debut and I think their second album, Confusion is Sex. These are my 2 absolute fave Sonic Youth records. Love the early kind of no-wave, slightly sludgy sounds, dark sounds on these albums. To me, that's my favorite Sonic Youth. A band that's changed its style or sound for the better. I'm gonna go with a pop band here, and a band I've never really liked their early stuff at all, but I do like their pop stuff. I'm gonna go with Genesis. You know, when they picked up, when they let Phil Collins do all the singing, and Invisible Touch and Land of Confusion are both on this record, and it's really fun record. Sellout, I don't know, from their earlier proggy, serious rock days. But yeah, I prefer the later Genesis stuff. Phil Collins, legend, of course. Second group that I want to mention also that I think kind of got better later on. It's maybe a slight update to their sound, but I'm going to mention Happy Mondays, Pills, Thrills, and Bellyaches. This album is the breakout album for this band, I think. Definitely for me. They had the earlier stuff, Bummed, good album, but it was a little darker, a little more indie rock, I think. And then this one kind of injected more of the dance beats to it. It's on Factory Records, of course. And a good one. I always liked Happy Mondays, and that album, I think, is a real big step forward. 6, a style of music or band that which people wouldn't expect you to like. This is, if you watch my channel, you know I'm into a whole lot of different styles. Jazz, techno, death metal, all over the map. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of weird experimental stuff, a lot of cheesy pop stuff, disco, etc. But I'm not a huge 60s rock fan, as I started my video off with listing some groups that I'm not into. That being said, I do like a couple of 60s bands, and quite a bit actually. I really like Jefferson Airplane, especially The Worst Of. These bands are mostly like the greatest hits, but a couple other albums. Big fan of Donovan, greatest hits as well. Even like not too bad. Even into this a little bit. This is the first Grateful Dead album, probably the only album I really like by Grateful Dead. But catchy a little bit, old-timey. An album which lets down the band's discography that's not Turbo or Saint Anger. Well, I think Turbo is actually kind of good in retrospect now, but at the time it was pretty shocking. Could have went for that Celtic Frost record, right? But I'm not gonna go metal for this one. I'm gonna keep it in the post-punk slash pop realm because these guys were, along with the Jam and Buzzcocks, etc. You know, UK punk, post-punk, whatever. Gang of Four. But then they put out this album, Hard, which is sounds the opposite and looks the opposite of the song of the album title, I would say. And yeah, it's kind of weak sauce. It's very poppy, very funky actually. Kind of disco pop, new wave ish. Pretty far from their more angular kind of sound earlier, but it's not a bad album actually. It's not horrible. It just sounds pretty different from the earlier Gang of Four, and a little bit generic. And I think this actually started a trend because there's like 2 or 3 albums afterwards that are also continuing this sound. So I guess technically it's not just a one bad one in the discography. It's like the beginning of some bad ones in the discography. I don't have any of the other ones. Randomly kind of found this one. Even the album cover doesn't look really like some of the older Gang of Four. Very 80s look. Not necessarily their best album. 8, 9, and 10 are all about festivals, which I haven't been to one in a little while. Which is a festival that you would really like to attend? I guess Wacken in Germany. That is the huge heavy metal festival. Don't know if I could do it for that many days. Maybe closer to home would be Heavy MTL, which used to be kind of annual, semi-annual metal fest, much closer to where I live. 2-day thing, pretty cool. A festival that doesn't appeal to you, probably Burning Man at this point. That just looks really hot in the desert. And then, of course, this year they had floods and also looks very expensive. A festival you keep attending every year. On the electronic side, I would say ADE in Amsterdam. Very good electronic music, techno festival, has conferences, etc. Pretty cool. Pretty cool city, too. Last but not least, your favorite alcoholic drink. I stopped drinking alcohol in the last 2 years, or a year and a little bit. It's been amazing, I have to say. I don't really miss it at all. It's cheaper, and you're just more there. And but when I did drink, I did like some Canadian rye whiskey, Canadian Club or Crown Royal. So that's my entry. Hope it's good. Thanks.